Hello YouTubers, and today I am going to be reviewing the latest animation, Galaxy 4. Now, I first of all like to thank Reese for sending me a rip of the Blu-ray since Royal Mail has still yet to deliver mine, because Royal Mail for some reason in my area is taking forever to deliver anything, even if it was delivered from next door. So to quickly skim over the packaging, it's the same kind of deal forever. If you want the nicer artwork, go for the Steelbook. Although saying that, the standard artwork this time around, although not quite as good as previous releases down the line, I'd say it's a lot better than the Evil of the Daleks one, which was literally just character profiles against a red backdrop. So, yeah. So for me, Galaxy 4 was always going to be a hard one because it is a bit of a drag to actually get through. It feels like a two-part story stretched out to a four-parter. And while at the time a good idea for a subversion story on, hey, the monster is actually the good guy in this one, it's being done to get sinks, but I won't hold that against it. In terms of the animation, we've got Big Finish Creative returning. And while this one is still produced by Gary Russell, it's actually produced as well and directed by Chloe Gleth, which I'm probably getting her surname completely wrong, so apologies for that. This one kind of has the opposite issues of what I said with Evil of the Daleks in terms of the animation. In that one I said that the animation started off really well but then got gradually worse as the story went on. This one, however, seems to have the opposite issue. This one, the animation starts out a bit flaky in places. For example, I noticed there was a lot of lip syncing issues in episode 1, but then as parts 2, 3 and 4 went on, the issues just seemed to go away. The animation got better, particularly by episode 4. So yeah, this one seems to go in the opposite direction, where the animation starts off a bit more ropey, but then gets better as the story goes on. I will say, in terms of styling, I think that Big Finish Creative do have better facial likenesses, but the other team seem to excel more in actually having better actual bodies and the actual movement of arms and stuff like that. Yes, the long arm issue is still slightly a thing here. Not as much as it was previously, but is still very much an issue. It's hard to really talk about the animation much in this one, as of ever, there is no behind the scenes on the actual animation on this release. And also this one, as ever, does try to be a little bit more ambitious than the actual story was. It actually shows a flashback sequence of both ships being shot down. Although, spoiler alert, we later find that this is false. Now, normally I would go against this in them adding something like this. Although, to be honest, it does kind of fit with the story because there are other flashbacks within the story. For example, Airlock, episode 3, the surviving episode, we actually have a flashback sequence in that. So I can, spend my disbelief to imagining that something like this, it could actually be possible because they could have used model shots if they wanted to back then. To be honest, other than that, I don't really have much else to actually say about the animation itself. I mean, this story, the obvious reason on why it was animated in the first place is because this is probably the easiest First Doctor story to animate, for one, but also probably one of the easier ones to animate in general. There's very few characters in this. However, there is the ever-present issue. So, the colour version, you get 16 by 9. The black and white version, yeah, this is not the really nice, the still 16 by 9 but has the blue tint that the previous Fury from the Deep had. No, this is just the more lazier option of just grayscale it and then crop it to 4:3, and I really wish they'd stop doing this because it is honestly cutting stuff off the screen. Watch my Evil of the Daleks review to basically when I demonstrate why this is an issue. So yeah, if you're like me or anyone else, then the only way to get a 16 by 9 black and white version is to rip the DVD or Blu-ray, whichever one you have, and then grayscale that. Or if your TV has the settings, then you can obviously set your TV to black and white if that is an option. Also, oddly, for some reason, the black and white 4:3 crops have the live action version of the title sequence. However, it is not the restored version. It's more of a much older version that has basically a lot of film grain and that to it, which hasn't been tidied up, which is really weird to see in the animation. Speaking of the colour version of the animation though, Rob Ritchie once again returns to do the title sequence for this one, but for some reason, rather than doing it the multiple colours to try and match the Pertwee-esque one, which he did with Troughton, this one he's done it different shades of orange, and it looks like it's just been put into sepia tone. I'm not really sure why. Also, speaking of Rob Ritchie in general, the only other involvement other than the title sequence is the TARDIS exterior. Yeah, Rob Ritchie had no other involvement in this one, which is unfortunate because the TARDIS console itself, while it does look pretty good, it does in some shots look kind of out of proportion, but that's all I'll say on that. In terms of special features, well, we don't get a lot in this one. We do actually get some pretty good expanded ones. For example, we get a whole 10-15 minute documentary on how this and the Underwater Menace episode 3 were discovered, which is quite nice to always find out about and have a bit more detail. We also get a 38-minute documentary making of Galaxy 4, which is nice that they get to go into a lot more detail on that about a story that, to be honest, the making of is a lot more interesting than the actual story itself. I wish Evil of the Daleks had a longer making of documentary that felt like it being cut down. This one thankfully feels like it hasn't. And then we also get the typical things like a photo gallery in HD if you get the Blu-ray, as well as some PDF material such as camera scripts for all 4 episodes and also radio times listings as well, so they're nice to be included. Overall, I don't really have much to say on Galaxy 4, to be honest. It's probably going to be one of them ones that just kind of sits on the shelf when it eventually arrives for me, and I just probably never watch it again just because it's not a great story itself. It's a one harder to recommend because it's just a pretty dull story for the most part in terms of my opinion, so it's harder to recommend it. I'll probably be watching the documentary on it again, so I'd say again it's more worth it for making of documentary, and also there is obviously the reconstruction if you're interested in that. However, this reconstruction is not in HD. No, this reconstruction seems to be an older one that was made for it. I'm wondering if the people that who are working now with the BBC, who were previously working at Loose Cannon, just pulled something out of their back catalogue. But yeah, it doesn't have the new restored version of Telesnaps on there, so that is a bit unfortunate in that regard. Obviously, if you're living in America, then you can just wait until this airs on television. If it already has, maybe it has by the time this goes out, I'm not actually sure. If not, obviously, you know, Black Friday is coming up, maybe it might have a price drop then, but otherwise, yeah, unless you've already made your decision on it, I would highly recommend waiting for a price drop on this one. I wouldn't call this one an essential release. But anyway, that's been it for this review, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.